Guys. What is up? Happy Monday. I hope you guys are having a great day. I know it's weird that I'm streaming on a Monday. I'll explain that shortly. Welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. If you're brand new, welcome. If you've been here a while, appreciate you guys being here. My name is Erin Bees. I'm a wife, a mom, a military veteran, a certified personal trainer, and I spent 13 and a half years in multi-level marketing, healed my way out, and now I'm using all of my social media platforms to educate and raise awareness around the dangers of multi-level marketing companies and the tactics used by their reps. Before I even say hi to everybody, let me run my disclaimer and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have something to tell you guys that has absolutely nothing to do with this stream. So many of you have been following me on my hair journey. The time has come. I will be making some changes soon. So say goodbye to the ponytails for today. It's 83 degrees here in Vegas. I didn't feel like doing my hair, and here we are. Anyways, so today on the agenda, we have, is this a tell-all or is this a self-preservation kind of video? I don't know, but we're going to find out. So this is a video that was sent to me, and shout out to all of you guys that send me information. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. It makes a huge difference. Please support your favorite anti-MLM content creators. Send them information, even if you think that it's, hey, this might not be important, send it to them anyways. We appreciate it so much. And that is a really big deal, a really big part of the movement. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. Annette, member for 3 months. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited for something new. I'm just ready for something new. Going into summer, it's spring, you know, it's time. It snowed today. I'm not ready for the summer. It's going to be so hot here. Ugh. So today we have Rob DeBoer. Now, you might remember Rob because I'm pretty sure, and maybe Rob's on here. What's up, Rob? I will not call you that guy, by the way. Last time I featured Rob, he sent me, soon after, he sent me a Facebook message, a voice message. I should have found it before this live stream, but I know I've covered it in other videos. And he was like, hey, it's Coach Rob DeBoer here. You can call me that guy. I am not kidding. He's with his entire chat. You can call me that guy. I will not. That's weird, Rob. What? Anyways, let me preface this stream with two things, or many things can be true at once. I can be glad that he is sharing what he is sharing about Pruvit and about Brian specifically in this. And I can also say, but where's the accountability? Where is you admitting that you participated in this? Where is your accountability, Rob? So many things can be true at one time. So just know that going into today's live stream. And it's going to be a wild ride. Before we even get into it, officially get into it, I have a different flavor today. Oh, it kind of matches a little bit. That's cute. This is the Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar Cherry flavor. It's not my favorite, but it's good. We're going to do an ASMR moment because I've been waiting to open this and with you guys. You can rate it 1 through 10. If you're not into ASMR, that's okay. You can just mute your sound for just a second. And if you're a member, you have a bubble emote. So let's have some fun. The opening was fantastic on my end, but I'm not so sure about the bubbles. Did I spill some on my keyboard? A little bit. It's okay. It's all right. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Not my favorite. Not my favorite, but you know what? I'm just a fan of Dr. Pepper, especially their zero sugar. Love it. 10 on the opening, 7 on the bubbles. Yeah, the bubbles were just okay for me. Shall we get into today's video? All right, let's see what Coach Rob has to say. Oh, Aunt Mel, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This calls for some kind of a sound effect. And, oh, I don't know. What are we feeling? Oh, this goes out to all of the people in MLM that have blocked me, thinking that the anti-MLM movement is not as vast as it is, thinking I'm not going to be sent your stuff.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
It's really funny to me that people in MLM do not understand that it's not just me or whatever, people's favorite content creator. They think that we're just stalking them, but it's really the movement. It is a large group of people that are watching and sending information to their favorite content creators. I don't know how they don't understand that. Lizzie, member for 2 months. Thank you so much. Homemade chicken tikka masala and Aaron Live. I'm spoiled tonight. I hope dinner is delicious. That sounds good. I am making, I can't remember what I'm making. Chicken something or other. I don't remember. But anyways, let's get into this video because he talks for quite some time. I'm matching his vibe. Did y'all catch that? By the way, what do y'all think of the thumbnail?
Hello, everyone. It is Coach Rob DeBoer, and happy Monday night to you. This is a special live in response to, no short of a few dozen people that have reached out to me, and we just wanted to be transparent. Lately, I've been kind of...
Okay, so right away he's trying to convince us that he's honest and transparent. I would like to call attention to, as we move through this live with him, the amount of half-truths that he shares, which I find really interesting. He's clearly setting himself up here as somebody that we should trust. I don't think we should. That's my opinion. Be careful. That's often a way that people in multi-level marketing or people that are just scammers in some way, shape, or form, they use that, in my opinion, to try and prevent people from asking questions. Because if somebody is saying they're trustworthy, why would you question that? Do you think, this is my question for you guys, do you guys think that influencers that say that they're transparent are being real, or do you think it's just kind of a way to get people to trust them? Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
I'm hanging my hat on the 3 T's: truth, trust, and transparency. And I thought, you know what? I'll give you my perspective if you're interested. For whatever reason, over the last decade, I've come to been trusted by people. I would argue mostly when it comes to fat loss, health, fitness, nutrition. For those of you that are not familiar with my story, we're going to share it with you. So sit back, enjoy, and I want to reference and preference this by saying I'm not an active Pruvit
Preference. Interesting.
distributor. Maybe you guys are wondering, what is this all about? It's about a news release lately, I don't know, in the last week or two. I'm not too familiar. I've been blocked from a lot of the channels and had to remove myself and unfriend people per policies and procedures, which, look, I get that. I mean, I think the one thing that I am guilty of is being very honest, very trustworthy, and very transparent, maybe to a default.
Rob, are you for real right now? He says he's guilty of being honest. This sounds, fine and dandy, but remember, it's also a way to stop people from doubting him. That's what I think he's doing here. What do y'all think? My God.
And so that's what you can expect from me. I don't know why. Literally countless people have reached out to me and said, hey, what is your take on Pruvit selling out to or use whatever terminology, being acquired by Herbalife? And then someone sent me various videos of various leaders who are still with the company or maybe never left the company, and their perspective and their take. And I want to start my story from the very start, because I think it makes this make more sense. 2 marriages ago, if you can believe that, now 3, sharing you complete transparency. My ex-wife, amazing mom to amazing kids, back in Columbia, South Carolina, I got into Reformed theology. For some of you that are biblical scholars or theologians, you'll understand, I was really into the study of Calvinism and really kind of found some faith. I had a born-again experience August 30th, 2001. I believe that day. I prayed a prayer of salvation. Had I died.
Listen, all beliefs or lack of beliefs are welcome here. But he's already using this spiritual manipulation, spiritual talk. And granted, there's nothing wrong with it. We have to look at the context of this. So people are reaching out to Rob and they're saying, hey, what do you think about Herbalife acquiring Pruvit? And he feels the need to say, hey, I'm a trustworthy guy. Hey, I'm an honest guy. Hey, I'm what I imagine or am assuming that he's saying is that he's a born again Christian. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. But why is that being brought up? Is he trying to get ahead of criticism that may come about? Is he afraid of information coming out and he's trying to make himself look a certain way online? Because what does this all have to do with Herbalife acquiring Pruvit? Because I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think, and maybe he's just rambling. That could also be. But I feel like this doesn't have anything to do with the story. And it makes me feel like he is just trying to get ahead of something, bad press, or I don't know. I find it interesting in a way that it's like, what are we doing here? Is he just trying to make viewers more emotional? Is he trying to stop people from thinking clearly, from critically thinking? I'm not really sure, but it just doesn't feel like this fits into the story. It doesn't really make any sense to me.
I would go to heaven. I had a relationship with Jesus. But for the next, I don't know, decade or 2, I didn't always live that way. Now, I always knew when I was out of line, because the Holy Spirit would be grieved. I wouldn't have peace. I would feel guilt and shame and all of this. But the reason I want to start there is because I had a concept for an apparel company called Reformed Performance. It was Reformed Performance. And most people don't know this story. It's a really cool story, and it's got an amazing ending that has everything to do with Pruvit. For those of you unfamiliar, Pruvit is a health, fitness, nutrition, ketone technology company in the direct sales space who has had incredible success with incredible people over the last decade. And how this story all ties together goes back to me studying Reformed theology, because Reformed theology kind of went back to the basics. And I had this idea, this vision, this dream to start an apparel company, and we called it Reformed Performance. Like, what if we encourage people to perform for some reason bigger than themselves? Then Reformed Performance became Reform Performance, and then I started partnering with some people. One was the tour manager of a band called the Rascal Flats. He was a partner. My wife and I were partners. And then they hired a CEO. I was kind of the brains behind the creative, if you will. We then came up with the name Reformance. Kind of a cool name, kind of a cool word. So we wanted to have this brand that inspired people to play for something more than themselves. The tagline was, "Who do you play for?" And I had this whole series of shirts that, if you read the shirts, they were upside down or it was backwards. So when you stood in front of a mirror, you could read it. When you were wiping the sweat off your face, there was a tag and it was upside down. And the tagline was, "Who do you play for?" Well, through some struggles in that marriage, through some struggles in that business relationship,
I'm just going to say it. I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to say it. Tell us about the struggle. That might be kind of important since you're spilling so much about your personal history, trying to paint this elaborate picture about Pruvit and how you essentially created Pruvit, which is neither here nor there because Pruvit was just acquired by Herbalife. Do tell us about your second marriage and the child. Listen, I'm just going to hit play. Let me stop.
I was the odd man out. Although Reformance, which began as Reformed Performance, then it became Reform Performance, then it became this apparel brand Reformance, and it was cool. Like, it had the greater than sign with this R, and that'll come into play with the Pruvit story here in a minute. It was just a really cool brand, and I was super proud of it. And essentially it was taken from me. I was at a place in my life where I couldn't have ownership in anything.
Why is that? Because you're filing bankruptcy? See, this is an example. I'm not shaming anybody that has filed bankruptcy. You do what you have to do. However, if you're going to paint this picture and you're going to tell half truths, which he's doing, in my opinion, why not just tell the whole story? I mean, all of this is available on his social media. Tell us about when you were living with the pastor and driving around the pastor's vehicle because you lost everything. Why not tell the whole story? If you're trying to make an impact, you're trying to share all this personal history, say everything. You know, talk about how... Yeah, I'm just going to hit play. Thank you so much, Muggsykins. I appreciate you. Howdy from a fellow veteran. Thank you for your service. I appreciate you. In Canada, our economy is garbage, so getting informed about MLMs helps me prepare for any future scams and scammers. Information is the best form of security. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for this. I appreciate you. And this is how I feel about Rob. A little Hall & Oates for those of you that are familiar with them from back in the day. Oh man, the things that I want to say, but I'm not going to right now.
Because of some history, no criminal history, anything like that. Nevertheless.
I mean, wasn't he sued by the SEC? Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's what I was talking about in the last video that I did, reacting to one of his videos. So that's interesting. I find that fascinating. Okay.
I was the odd man out. Went through a divorce, lost that company. They thought, you know, Rob, you're great at creative, but even though this is your idea, even though this is your baby, even though this is your passion and your pursuit, we don't think you're best suited to be the CEO. And I was voted out. Well, that was a tough pill to swallow. Some called me a liability. I don't know.
Why would that be? Why would they consider you a liability? See, if you're going to share all of this information, which he's doing voluntarily, why not just tell the whole story? Here's another example, in my opinion, of a half-truth. Why were you considered to be a liability in your previous company or in this situation that he's talking about? I don't understand. Ash, thank you so much for the gifted membership. Who got it? That's so exciting. And if you got the membership, and for Ash, this is for y'all. I did do a little shoulders today. Did I wear a tank top? No, because I forgot. But thank you for the gifted membership. I appreciate you.
So I went back to the drawing board and I said, I'm going to show them. I'm going to prove to them. I'm going to prove it
Oh,
that I can start my own apparel company.
okay.
And that was just how I believed. So I came up with this word, Pruvit. Spelled it P-R, the Uber U-V-I-T. And when I first did my first runs, like I would go to Kohl's and I would go to the sales racks and I would buy all the shirts, like the, I don't know, the athletic gear that was, you know, it was kind of like this one-off brand. It was like the Kohl's brand, but it was good enough. And it was blank labeled. So I'd rip out the tags and I started my own apparel company and I called it Pruvit.
I don't think that that's how you're supposed to do that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Apparel to power you. But my personal agenda was I was going to prove to my ex-wife and my ex-partners that I could start an apparel company. My it was proving them wrong, that I was capable, that I was able, that I was willing and able to run to fulfill my dream of owning an apparel company.
I do want to point out, I find it really interesting that he says he was voted out, and then it seems like out of revenge. Was that Luna? It seems like out of revenge, he's wanting to prove them, you know, with Pruvit, with the apparel. And it makes me wonder, being revengeful doesn't seem like a Christian value, like not a value, but do you know what I'm saying? I just feel like he's talking about this new spiritual journey, but then he's basically talking about being revengeful. I don't know. I hope that's making sense, but.
So we went from this really cool logo with this R and the greater than sign to this word Pruvit. And I just believe.
And don't get me wrong, I do love some petty with facts, petty with science, petty with evidence to back up what you're saying. I do appreciate that. I love those types of moments. But I don't think that that's what this is for Rob, Coach Rob, AKA that guy. I can't.
In where I was going before I got there. So I would go and I would make these shirts up. Again, I would buy all the shirts off of like the Kohl's rack. So I felt like I had some inventory, although I had nothing. You know, sold some shirts to friends and people at the gym, things like this. It was a neat idea. And then one day, I was visiting a friend who is now the CEO of Pruvit.
Brian Underwood.
And we were brainstorming and I was wearing my apparel. Like I was believing this was.
Are you just chatting? Where are you? She's just chatting.
Going to be a brand someday. And he's like, cool. And what endeared me was every time I would go to these events, he would tell this story. And the story goes like this. This is a true story. I was at his house and I was still into health, fitness, nutrition, and I was cooking protein pancakes in his kitchen, and I was wearing my swag. I was so proud of it. You know, people would say, hey, whatever happened to Reformance? Because I did a whole photo shoot. We had all.
Do you guys hear Luna? Oh, there she is. Hi. Do you want to say hi? Okay. Oh, no. Are you just chatting? What's this? Here. She's chasing one of my hair ties.
Kinds of inventory. We had some celebrities and stars, and we met with Team Tebow's group about Reformance, and we had done a lot, and then it was kind of all taken away from me, and I was going to prove it. I was going to prove to everybody that I could have my own apparel company. Okay. So I started wearing it, and when I was with this guy, a friend,
Brian,
he's like, "What is that? That's pretty cool." And then I
don't think Brian is anybody's friend. I think he's his own friend. His own best friend. In my opinion, Brian is only going to do things that benefit him. Luna agrees. Oh my goodness. Hi. Come here. Come here. Come and say hi to the people. They would love to see you. Hello, little lady. Hello, little lady. What do you think about this? What do you think? Huh? No. Okay. She was just stopping by to say, hey, that's okay.
Explain the whole concept. You know, everybody has an it. Mine was to prove to my ex-wife and ex-partners that I could start an apparel company, but everyone's got an it. And my old concept and company was, who do you play for? Well, this was kind of apparel to power you. That was the tagline. And it was premised on your it. What is your it? Do you want to lose weight? Prove it. Do you want to run a mile, a marathon? Prove it. Do you want to be a better dad, a better mom? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to fight in an MMA fight? Like, I don't know what your dream or your goal is, but I wanted to provide apparel that would help you prove it. Apparel to power you. And he's like, wow, that's good. That's a really interesting concept. I love it. Someday we're going to use it. Long story short, there was some technology available, and y'all, there's so many parts and pieces to this. But a technology came up where you could drink ketones. And all I knew about ketones was they were good for the brain. My dad at the time had Alzheimer's. He has since passed. This is, 10, 12, 15 years ago now, or more. And what was interesting was you could prove that this product was active in your body.
Okay. I was shaking my head because I was like, don't you dare say that it helps with brain function, Alzheimer's, things of that nature. Don't you dare say that. I was waiting for it. And why? Because that was a big thing around 2018, 2019. They were bringing people in. They were specifically talking about Alzheimer's. And Brian's dad passed. It was Alzheimer's or dementia. I don't remember. And I remember thinking, wait, didn't we just hear at these events? And if you were in Pruvit around that time and you feel comfortable sharing the comments, feel free. But I remember specifically at Keto Academy, some of the speakers talking about that. And while it's a classic example of what people in multi-level marketing are taught at these events, the studies are on or were on nutritional ketosis, not on Pruvit's ketones. I don't know if anybody else remember. Yeah, see? And then Brian's dad passes from Alzheimer's or dementia, something along those lines. And I remember thinking, that doesn't make any sense. I thought ketones would prevent that. Well, we also heard things like allegedly Pruvit's ketones prevent cancer. But then there's this list of 16 people that I have that have passed away or have had some sort of cancer, and there's a very distinctive pattern. Could that be a coincidence? Of course it could be. Am I going to continue to track it? Absolutely I am.
And, you know, I wouldn't say promises were made. I've always been a handshake kind of guy, probably to my demise, you know, and
You're such a good guy, Rob. Oh my God. You know what? People that are good individuals don't use trauma dumping to try and manipulate their audience. They don't do that. And in my opinion, that's what Rob was doing by mentioning his dad having Alzheimer's and that he's passed away when talking about ketones. I feel like he's just using an emotional story so that he can make people trust him more or trust the MLM product more. I find that really odd. He has spent a lot of time on this video trying to show his audience that he's trustworthy. And if you have to spend all this time trying to get people to believe that you're trustworthy, it makes me think you're not trustworthy. It's kind of like if you're telling a story and say, hey guys, this is a true story. Is it really true? I don't know. I find that really odd. People that are trustworthy and people that are being honest don't have to say that over and over again. People just know that they're trustworthy. I find that really odd.
Said, well, let's use this name, hey, maybe, if we launch this company, the name was perfect. It matched the product perfectly. Like, you could prove this ketone technology in your body, in your blood, within an hour, and it became something you couldn't stop.
Just because you have elevated blood ketones in your bloodstream, does not mean that your body is burning fat. That just means you have elevated levels of ketones in your body, in your bloodstream. Your body, if you have carbs present, your body is still going to break down the carbs into glucose, or break down glycogen into glucose to burn. That's the body's ideal fuel source. Rob, come on.
And Pruvit was the perfect name. Like, you could prove it. And then it kind of resonated with the community. People had their it. They wanted to make more money. They wanted to stay home with their kids. So it kind of became this mantra. And so I was deeply embedded with this company that launched, I don't know how long it's been, maybe 10 years, 11 years, somewhere in there. I will go on record and say I'm not an active participant. Resigned my position. My wife and I, her probably a year, me not soon after. And there's reasons for that we don't necessarily need to get into.
I feel like this is the appropriate time to get into it. If you're going to get on here and spill the tea in a way, which is what I think he was trying to do. I don't know. I'm actually confused what he's trying to do here, because it doesn't really make any sense. But if you're going to say, hey, I was a part of this company from the beginning and I resigned about a year ago, we don't need to get into that. I think that's exactly what needs to be shared on this. I don't know. What do y'all think? Also, which wife, sir? Tell us about the second wife, Rob. I hope she's safe. Let me just say that.
If you'd like to know, you could message me, but it's unimportant to this part of the story.
But it's important to the overall story. If you were a part of a company and you had such a big role in creating many of these things, which he claims here shortly that he created the keto reboot, which is their 60-hour fast that we weren't allowed to call a fast, even though that's what it was, 60 hours without food. And then all of a sudden you just leave. And now people are asking you your opinion on what happened or what you think of Herbalife acquiring Pruvit. I feel like that would be kind of important. Now, maybe he's held to, not disparaging the company or something along those lines. I don't know. Maybe there's NDAs, because I hear that Brian is kind of a fan of NDAs. I don't know, but I think that this would be really appropriate to be talking about why you decided to leave after 10 plus years or whatever.
Because I do want to give you my perspective. And it might be different than what you expect or think. So there's this company growing, and I thought, what do I got to lose? Like, I'm dreaming about this apparel company, and, this is my shot, and we can get it on a lot of people, and, maybe I could be in charge of the apparel component. And long story short, things just didn't turn out that way. But it had gone on to be, we could say, $1 billion brand. I don't know what the numbers were. As a network marketing, multi-level marketing, MLM, direct sales company, call it whatever you want. It went on, and it was the darling baby. Like, it was something special. It attracted people. The branding was cool. I was allowed to make some of the graphics. As I mentioned in my first company attempt to start an apparel company, with kind of the backwards and the upside down writing. And I helped forge this program, which became a fasting program for the company. And the irony of this, just wait for it, guys. What he says about the keto reboot, it still shocks me. won't believe this, but my Reformance logo with the greater than R ended up becoming, so 2 apparel companies before, my Reformance logo ended up being kind of the logo for this product they launched called a Keto Reboot. And I would argue, pretty instrumental in creating that. One day, me and 2 other people thought, let's put these ketones to the test, and we were fasting, and 3 people turned into 30 people, and we did this extended fast, and I did one for 7 days, and then we kind of scaled it back, and we came up with this magic number 60 hours.
Now, Rob, you just came up with the magic number 60 hours. Was there any science behind that, or did it just sound good to you? Was the magic in the room with you at the time? Because this sounds like you just picked a time frame out of thin air and said, well, it's 2.5 days, it's not that long. It almost sounds like there was no science behind that, and it was just a marketing thing. I cannot believe he just admitted this.
And this 3 people turned into 30, turned into 300, 3,000, 13,000. And then my back office got shut off with this company. It's like,
You notice that he's perpetually a victim? Where's the accountability, Rob? Why was your back office shut down? Why? Why were you not allowed to own anything?
that's odd. Like, we're using these products, and I would say it was more.
This is the guy that acts like the divorce came out of nowhere. This is the guy that's like, I don't know, everything was great. And his ex-wife leaves in the middle of the night with the kids and takes everything that's hers. You know what I'm saying? Like that, I don't know what happened. Everything was fine. And then all of a sudden he gets served divorce paperwork.
Or just of a safety precaution, because we were using words like fasting, and compliance came in, and it was like, if they can't beat you, right, they want to join you. And so they put out a fasting protocol, and I was thrilled about it.
You were thrilled about it, but your back office was shut down? How's that work? That's weird.
Just, hey, we're going to the moon. This is going to be forever. This is going to be $1 billion brand. It's my name. I was always acknowledged as the creator of this name at all the events, at least for a period of time, until I wasn't.
Until you weren't. I mean, that's accurate.
And it was just a wonderful
Never
story.
His fault.
Fast forward, and things just started to change. And there's a lot I could say about that.
Let's hear it.
But I choose to think of the glass as half full, or even overflowing, not a glass half empty. Gosh.
Okay. First of all, if you are using facts, if you are sharing information that is preventing other people from being scammed, that's not negative. I know people in MLM, and I think Rob is no different here. His wife is in MLM. What is that? Bella Grace? I think that's the company she's in. Yeah. Anyways, I haven't done a video on that company in quite some time. I don't even know if they're still around. But if you're sharing information, if you are providing facts, if you are using scientific evidence or the lack thereof when we're talking about multi-level marketing companies, that's not negative. That's just facts. Facts are not attacks. But see, when you're in an MLM, you are taught that anybody that doesn't agree with you, what you're doing, the company, the products, that's negative. That's how they think. It's an all or nothing. It's a fallacy. And I think that's what he's alluding to here. If you, how do I want to say this? Let me gather my thoughts for a second. If you were wronged in a multi-level marketing company. We're talking about Pruvit here. So let's use Pruvit as an example. Let's say that you had an experience with Brian Underwood. Let's just, as an example, right? You had an experience with Brian Underwood. It wasn't appropriate. It was unprofessional, let's say. And you start speaking out. That's not negative. That's advocacy. That's you speaking up so that other people don't become victims of the unprofessionalism or whatnot. That's important. So I don't understand what he's trying to do here, because if he really was wanting to help people, if he was really wanting to appear to be a good guy, an honest guy, he would be sharing the things that happened that I know he knows happened behind the scenes. But instead, he's telling us about his spiritual journey. Instead, he's saying, oh, I, created this and I created that. And I picked this magic number for the keto reboot out of thin air. Those are not things that are telling me you're an honest, good guy, Rob. You messaging somebody because they covered a video of you manipulating your audience, in my opinion, trying to intimidate me. You picked the wrong woman. You got the wrong person. No, thank you. And then to block me. I find that really interesting. What's the matter, Rob? You couldn't get your way? You couldn't intimidate me? Do you intimidate other women in your life? I'm just curious. I'm asking for a friend, because that behavior seems very odd. If you wanted me to come right to the source and you felt, hey, call me that guy, and you had that whole what is the word? Vibrato? Is that the word? I can't think of that word. Anyways, if you had that whole vibe about you, and then because you didn't get your way and you couldn't intimidate me, which I do believe he was attempting to intimidate me through his voice message, and it didn't work, and then you block me. Oh, you couldn't get your way, Rob? I wasn't believing your whole victim story that we're talking about here today, because I don't think you're a victim by any means. Do I know more? Absolutely, I do. Am I going to share? Bravado. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Am I going to share? No, but yeah. Just know that there's always, I always know more than what I'm able to share, and that's out of respect for the victims.
Here we go again. I'm starting from scratch, and my company or my concept, or nobody took anything from me. Let me be very clear. Nobody took anything from me. In good faith,
Yvonne, that's so nice. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I feel like we should play something.
Oh my God.
That's how I feel about Rob and what he's doing here, playing the victim. It's wild. Thank you so much for that, Yvonne. I really do appreciate that. It's very kind of you.
I figured I would probably be a part of the legacy team as part of Pruvit forever. That's where my heart was. And things just didn't turn out that way. And things started to change. And some turmoil happened. And I went through a divorce, and I kind of lost everything. And I met a woman, innocent.
I feel like you're skipping forward a little too soon there, Rob. I feel like there's some details that probably should be shared. That's why this is wild to me, you guys. Earlier, okay, I'm just going to tell you this. Earlier today in this stream, when I said he's the guy that, didn't see the divorce coming, that's ex-wife allegedly leaves in the middle of the night. Yeah. You get it.
She was kind of a Coach Rob. I was kind of referred to as Coach Rob, the keto reboot coach. And I would coach these boot camps at all these events. And they gave me a tremendous...
He's talking about his current wife, by the way. She was referred to me. She called me Coach Rob. I can't. I cannot.
Tremendous platform to coach people within the company context. I couldn't do it outside. That wasn't allowed. But nevertheless, it was a great opportunity because I love people. I think one of my gifts is relating, understanding. I'm hanging my hat on truth, trust, and transparency. And I felt...
What a weird way to say manipulating people, in my opinion.
there was a lot of misinformation in the keto space. You know, people, I think one of the things where this really took off is it was perfect timing. We had a really unique technology. We had a great product. But I think what really created the initial momentum was people were under the belief, hey, if you rip this open, you pour it in water, you drink it, you're in fat burning mode. Oh, if that were true, wouldn't that be wonderful? And so
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Somebody that used to be in Pruvit finally admits that that is not how that works. I will give him credit there. Yes.
I think literally for the next decade, I was passionate about correcting all of the misinformation because there was a lot of it.
And there still is, my guy. Not that guy, my guy. Rob is claiming that he was fighting or fights misinformation about ketones, but he doesn't admit that he helped spread that information in the first place. Hello, Keto Reboot created 60-hour fast. You know, we picked the magic number 60. There was no evidence, scientific evidence behind that. He just said, oh, well, it's 2.5 days. I'm sure people can hang with that. He's picking and choosing what he's responsible for here. He's bobbing and weaving accountability. Like, you know, he's slipping. Come on, Rob. Where's the accountability? That keto reboot hurt people. It hurt people. Their relationship with food. I could go on and on. He is ducking accountability. That's what he's doing here, in my opinion. However, I do appreciate that he said, oh, people were under the belief that they could mix this packet with water and they'd be in fat burning mode. Why would they think that? Because they were taught that. They were taught that at the events.
And creating context, like so much so people thought, gosh, you're a keto coach. No, as a matter of fact, I started this huge group. I think it still might be available still today called Ketones and Carbs, because everybody was anti-carb. And I always said, hey, carbs will make you fat. High fat will make you skinny. Protein needs to be a priority. Calories all count. Context is key. I still coach on those things today, all because.
And I agree with that. I agree with that.
Because of my experience with countless people that did the keto diet thinking these drinkable ketones were going to help them burn fat. And a lot of people got fatter because they substituted 9 calorie per gram fat and gave up 4 calorie per gram carb.
That part. I was just having a conversation with Jerry, my husband, the other day, and explaining how keto, people on keto, just like he said, there are 9 calories per gram of fat. In carbs and also in protein, it's 4 grams or 4 calories per gram of carbs or protein. So you're taking something, carbs, 4 calories per gram, and you're replacing it with fat, which is more than double the amount of calories per gram. And you're saying that you're going to lose weight. I hope that makes sense, because I know that can be kind of, I know that I worded that. I could have worded that a lot better.
For example, they felt like they could have a burger, hold the 100-calorie bun, but they could put cheese, mayo, and bacon on it, and maybe even an extra patty, all in the name of high-fat keto. And so we created kind of a following that was just kind of the opposite of this. And so I felt a really significant purpose in place for a long time, and until I didn't. And I'll just kind of leave it at that, like until I didn't. There's a lot of people that have forwarded me videos, and
What kind of videos?
let me go back. So I went through a divorce, and I met someone who is now my wife. Her name is Rob DeBoer. We host The Rad Show Monday through Friday, tune in.
Okay. Yeah, of course he's going to self-promo his whatever project, his podcast, which is so cringy. Oh my God. It's so bad.
Into our personal pages. Many of you probably know us in some way, shape, or form. We have a lot of friendly followers and who we consider family that we love, who seem to trust and like our transparency, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we started a coaching business, Radway, the Rob and Danielle DeBoer way. It's not the only way. It's just our way, and it seems to work. And so we've built this community of people. But prior to all that, Danielle kind of, she was, I wouldn't say a fan, but like she knew of me and had a quote unquote secret crush. Well, she was going through a divorce. I was going through a divorce. And gosh, talk about innocent enough having a friend when you're going through these tough times, especially a guy with a girl that's 20 years younger that lives a country away. That seemed pretty non-threatening. Like, I wasn't thinking, hey, this is going to be a good hookup. This is going to be my next victim. This is going to be my next girl. This is going to answer and solve all of my lonely questions.
I'm sorry, Rob, what do you, okay, hold on. What do you mean this is not going to be your next victim? Who talks like that? What do you mean? I have never heard somebody talk like that about their wife. Who says that? This wasn't just going to be a hookup. That tells me, is that exactly what he was looking for? Coming out of a divorce? That is uncomfortable. I don't like that. Yeah, this is going to be a hookup. Oh God, Danielle, run. Oh my God. What is the saying? Something about an accusation is actually a confession. I don't know that necessarily applies here. Oh God.
It wasn't any of that. It was just the opposite of that. In fact, we were both at a place where, we became really good friends, despite maybe what people think or assumed or heard. We had never met until we were both kind of already divorced, or the divorce process was going through. And through that, I kind of lost everything, sold everything, gave up everything. And Kentucky's kind of like a 50-50 state, and me and my ex weren't building a business, and I wish her well. And like, I've just really softened my heart over the course of the last few years, but certainly over the last few months. And that's going to come into play in this story.
What?
Because here's this company, Reformance, kind of taken from me, my idea, my baby. And then I launched Pruvit, and it became something wildly successful beyond my imagination. But I felt a part of it. I felt ownership. Although I didn't have ownership, didn't invest money, they treated me really well as far as making me feel. But the more I talked to people, well, Rob, you did a lot for them too. And so it just kind of, it felt fine. But when I met Danielle, it was just a weird time. I had kind of lost my faith and was finding it again, going back to Reformed theology. I needed God in my life, and I knew he was there because I was grieving the Holy Spirit, but I wasn't living that way. I certainly wasn't kind. I was full of tons of pride, arrogance, ego, and how dare they, and woe is.
And you're not today? Oh my God. I think caution. I'm just seeing the caution signs, because I feel like he's sharing these personal struggles in detail for a reason. I feel like he's using this emotionally charged and specifically religious language, trying to influence how viewers feel about him, and specifically the situation between him and Pruvit and Herbalife acquiring Pruvit. And I find that really odd. And I said it before in this live stream, and I'm going to say it again. I feel like he's trying to get ahead of something, and I don't know what that something is. Maybe I do. We could probably all speculate, I'm sure. But, if you have any information and would like to fill in any of the gaps, message me. You can contact me through my website. I will keep you anonymous if you ask me to keep you anonymous. I have a lot of questions because this just feels like he's trying to get ahead of something, and I'm not really sure what that is.
Me, and this isn't fair. And, you know, in many instances, I think I was warranted, but isn't it amazing how good we are at giving ourselves permission and excuses to sulk and be sad and sorry and all these things? And
I don't think I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling all of your feelings. That's part of the human experience. I mean, only in MLMs do we see toxic positivity and cults, toxic positivity, you know, and, oh no, you're not sad. You just need to work more or whatever. It's weird to me. There's nothing wrong with feeling your feelings.
And so I met Danielle and decided to move to Corner Brook, Newfoundland. You know, I was at a point where I was transitioning from just a point in my life to another point in my life. And I started to feel some separation, some fundamental beliefs. I felt kind of like there was a thumb on me.
I mean, are we talking about in Pruvit? Are we talking about in your previous relationships? I'm confused because if we're talking about Pruvit, well, yeah, he was going against everything Pruvit was teaching their reps. Pruvit at that time, in my opinion, was teaching people that you could drink Pruvit's ketones and be in ketosis within an hour and that you would be burning body fat. And we know that that's not true. That's not how physiology works. That's not how any of that works. And so he had a group talking about carbs and ketones, and he was going against what Pruvit was teaching the reps. So I'm sure that there were some battles between him and Brian, and probably him and compliance. I would imagine paging Jade. Jade, are you there? Do you still work at compliance? Do you still work at Pruvit? Because I know some of Brian's former assistants no longer work for him. And I've been hearing something about one of Brian's office spaces in Louisville being torn down and his wall of TVs being taken down. Now, that doesn't sound to me like a company that's going to be operating as, you know, business as usual, right? That sounds to me like they're getting ready to liquidate. That sounds to me like the ship is sinking. Cue the Titanic music. That's what that sounds like to me. So yeah, I think that there were probably some battles between Rob and Brian. And if you are Brian's former assistant, plural, assistants, and would like to chat, because I know of some scenarios that you were put in, I would love to chat, and I will absolutely keep you anonymous. Absolutely, because I do believe that you were victimized as much as many others have reached out to me, again, in my opinion.
Owned a little bit, and maybe that's just my insecurity, which could very well be. But it just wasn't headed in a direction that I saw was a good direction for me. And she's like, you know, why don't you just get away from the environment? Because I was living in proximity of the court. Like I trained the corporate staff. Like I would run their boot camps, and I would train the CEO. And, you know, at one point we were the best of friends, and man, I had his back through thick, thin, good, bad, indifferent, didn't matter. I was just, one thing I pride myself on being is loyal to a fault. Loyal until I can't. And I moved here, and things just, they weren't going the way we believe they could and should be going. And then Danielle kind of fell out feeling, I would just say ick. She felt an ick from everything when it came to her.
Everything.
It was just, it just wasn't what she needed it to be in her life anymore.
Okay.
And a lot of it was the ick feeling. So she resigned her position, and of course, me being her fiance at the time, supported her. By the way, we got married in November, just a few months back, so we're relative newlyweds. And she just kind of resigned and moved on. And I started to notice that this wasn't what I needed. And I would sum it all up by this. And then I'm just going to give you something that's several people have shared with me. And then I'll kind of share the silver lining, which is the reason Danielle is so significant and important. Y'all think about this, like 2 ruined marriages. I got married real early. I got engaged in 6 days when I was playing minor league baseball to Kim, the mother of my 3 children, Alec, Mary Grace, Ella. They're all grown. They're all amazing. Like, they are some of the most wonderful, well-mannered, not in trouble, just beautiful children. She's an incredible mom. They've got an incredible home. They're all back.
Tell us about your other child. Do you talk to him? No?
Back in Columbia, South Carolina, and I couldn't be more proud to be their dad.
And let me also say, the only reason I'm bringing any of this up is because he has spent so much time on this live stream acting like he is such a trustworthy, honest guy. He is picking and choosing what he is sharing to make him look like the victim. And I don't believe that he's the victim in any of these scenarios. And again, that's just my opinion.
And like, that was a failure. And even though I knew God, I didn't understand. I wasn't rooted enough in what I knew I needed. Probably because I didn't know I needed it. Then I went through, a breakup and very minimal dating scene and got remarried. And for those of you that have followed us, Kelly and I were a great couple until we weren't. And it wasn't abuse. It wasn't, it wasn't the things that end most marriages. Like,
What? It wasn't. Who says that? Who says when a relationship ends, oh, it wasn't abuse? That's weird. People break up for a host of reasons. But why would you specifically bring that up unless you're trying to get ahead of that being the very thing that he was accused of? I'm not stating that as a fact. I'm just saying that would make sense why he would be saying some of these things specifically about the relationships in his past. He's trying to get ahead of those. It makes me wonder what Brian has on him. That's what I'm wondering. He appears to be very careful with his words. Could it be because of legal things and him not being able to elaborate on certain points on his time in Pruvit? It could be. Or could it be Brian? What does Brian have on him? And again, I'm not stating that as a fact. It's just me thinking, why would he be so vague in all of this? Why would he be talking about his relationships? Why would he say, oh, it wasn't abuse? Were people accusing you of that? But he's honest and trustworthy until he's not, right? Come on.
it wasn't cheating, it wasn't infidelity, we were just oil and water, and it wasn't what it needed to be for either of us. And gosh, I'm at a point where I hope everybody, I want to wish everybody well.
Okay.
But here's why it's important is, but God. Like, if you think about this, but God, and this isn't about God, but it has everything to do with it. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
If I had recorded this 6 months ago, I don't know how many months ago I resigned, but I was hurt. I was full of hate. I wouldn't have been able to present this way. But
6 months ago. I'm trying to remember. I'm going to look this up. I'm trying to remember when he messaged me. Let's see. When is my other video? March. Wow, this is odd. March 11th, 2024. So he says, 6 months ago, he was full of hate. He was full of, what did he say at the beginning? Ego and those types of things. Well, he messaged me a year ago. So interesting. I just was curious on that time frame. March 11th, 2024. I'll make sure that I link the video to this. God, I have made so much progress on my thumbnails. Unreal. Anyways, I'll make sure I link this in the video description so you guys can check it out if you would like to. It's from March 11th, 2024, and it is called MLM Introduction, Rob DeBoer. So if you want to watch that after this.
God introduced me to someone who didn't know God, but was open. And in the last several months since we had one of the biggest fights before our wedding, like our last counseling session. But we found this church, and one thing I didn't believe in, if you know Reformed theology, I didn't believe in the charismatic gifts and speaking in tongues and all that craziness that's associated with maybe the Pentecostal church. Like, that was the one thing. It's the opposite of how my apparel company started. So it's just amazing to see how all these things intertwine and become the opposite of what you could ever imagine. So I meet a girl who was raised essentially with no dad. Why on earth would she believe in a heavenly father when she couldn't even believe in an earthly father? She was in and out of homes, and if you ever tune into her Rooted and Rising in Faith, kind of, I don't know, call it a live series on her.
Why are you sharing this? Danielle, he should not be sharing this about you. This is really weird.
Her page every Tuesday night. I think I'm going to be a guest tomorrow night, by the way.
Oh my God.
You will see why she was the way she was. She was searching for everything but God because she didn't believe there could be God. And enter Coach Rob, and we developed this beautiful friendship.
Enter Coach Rob. Oh God. You know that feeling you get in your throat? Oh. You're talking about your wife, bro. Enter Coach. Are you gonna? Is he trying to become like a pastor or something? Because I don't understand. This is uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable for his wife.
I ended up coming here, and we agreed we needed to put God in the middle of our relationship. And here's why all of this is so important. Probably 6 weeks ago, my whole life completely changed again. We went to, and there's so much to this story, we could unpack it for days, and I'm going to get to my final thoughts on Pruvit and Herbalife. But I think,
I mean, we've only been waiting 29 minutes and 51 seconds of your video for you to answer the question, what do you think about Herbalife acquiring Pruvit?
this is all part of this picture. I was what's called baptized in the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Hands were laid on me. If
Good for you.
Look back and look
Love
at this
that for you.
video. If you would have told me, as a prideful, arrogant man that doesn't believe in that stuff, that I would be flapping my arms and fall back and cry and weep in front of people because of the presence of God in my life, I would have told you you're crazy. But Danielle caught it on video because she knew it was a moment I will never forget. I changed that day. Ask anyone. Even in
Why would she think to video that? I feel like that would be a very private thing, unless it was planned ahead. I don't know.
this little town of Corner Brook, Newfoundland, Canada, I approach things so differently. I'm approaching this live differently, and it might not be what many of you were expecting or maybe even hoping, but I think it will give you a little bit of both. If that
A little, both of what? Rob is describing this intense spiritual moment, which, okay, love that for him. And while I do think that personal growth can be important, depending on what specific type of growth in the method specifically we're talking about. I think stories like this should cause viewers to pause because, in my opinion, he's using this to emotionally connect himself to viewers. And like I said at the beginning of this, I think it's because he doesn't want people to be critical of him. I think that that is wrapped into him avoiding accountability for his part in Pruvit and whatever else happened behind the scenes. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Makes sense. But here's this woman, my wife, at this kind of crusade with a guy named Tommy Zito. And they did like 11 services over the course of 8 days, like 2 hour, a couple hours every day, twice a day. It's like, who would do that? Who would go to that? And I just couldn't. It was like I couldn't stay away. I kept going and I kept going and I kept going and I kept going. And I remember it so vividly, telling Danielle at times, I just wish I would. I think God wanted me to stand up and say something, or I think God wanted me to go to that person. And I just didn't. That's pride. That's worrying about what other people think. And so I remember it so vividly. I was praying, like, this is one of the last days of this crusade. And I was praying, and she reaches over and whispers in my ear. She doesn't remember what she said. She doesn't know why she said it, but it was something to the effect of, God, please let Rob follow the promptings of the Holy Spirit. And I remember it like, okay, I've got to start saying yes. And it was like literally the last service of the last day when this preacher, like everything that I was hesitant about, okay, well, here's why I don't believe this. Why don't you answer? And then he would speak and it'd be like, hey, some of you are probably thinking, and it was like it happened 10 times over the course of these services. Like everything I was thinking in doubt, he started answering. Now, he didn't know I was doubting it. He didn't know me. He didn't know us. Like, he wasn't even supposed to be here, which is the coolest part of the story. But I finally went up, and people will call it slain in the spirit. And, I don't believe in any of this stuff until I did. And now I do. And all that to say, that is the greatest part about Pruvit. I've never felt this way in a relationship. I've never been this.
I'm sorry, what? You're trying to connect this spiritual experience that he had. He's trying to connect this spiritual experience that he had to his experience in Pruvit. I think this is a very dangerous way of thinking, suggesting that being in a multi-level marketing company could lead to life-changing experiences. This idea can, in my opinion, very easily mislead vulnerable people that are looking for community, vulnerable people that are dealing with health struggles, that are looking for the solution. And we know that people in MLM will use different types of health claims and medical claims. We see it every single day on social media. So I think what he's doing here is a very slippery slope. And I think, just like I've said multiple times, I feel like this is a perfect example of spiritual and emotional manipulation, trying to get ahead of something. I just don't know what that something is.
Committed. I've never been this close to God. I've never desired to help people learn what love really is based on a relationship and not a religion. And so all of that to say, I'm in one of the greatest places of my life. I've never had fewer things. I've never had less money. As far as material possessions, they've just become kind of meaningless. I believe we'll have multiple houses. I believe we'll have a ministry. I believe we'll have a tour.
I'm sorry, what? And Rob, what did you just say? Yeah, I'm happy for him. He's finding what he feels he needs, but why do we need to know it? Agreed. I'm happy that this was his experience. I'm happy that he is happy with his relationship. I love that. Did he just say, I believe one day we'll have a ministry? Do you remember when Ray Higdon self-proclaimed himself in a roundabout way to be a prophet? Do y'all remember that? That wasn't that long ago, the last year, maybe year and a half. And then he switched to network marketers, Christian network marketers. Is that what we're doing here, Rob? Is that, listen, if you want to do that. But I feel like for somebody that has just found his spirituality or his beliefs, now you want to have a ministry? I don't think that's how that works. I think that maybe you should just like sit in scripture for a while, marinate, go to some Bible studies, study a little bit or a lot. A ministry? Okay, now that's making a little bit more sense, I guess, in what he's doing here.
Robust. Like, I believe these things.
I've seen it.
Because they're just starting as these visions. But the greatest thing about Pruvit is I met the person I was supposed to be with. So when people ask me, well, what about Pruvit? This is the best way I could explain it. I'm so grateful because one of the greatest things in my life and my destiny was fulfilled because of this company that I helped name over 10 years ago after a failed booting of me out of this other dream that I had. So I had a failed dream for an apparel company. I came up with the name, and here I am, not even part of the brand Pruvit, which I created. I didn't create it, but the name, literally.
Contributed.
And there's so many talented people, and there's so many great people, and
I do agree. There are great people that get sucked up into MLMs every single day. I met some incredible people in my time in multi-level marketing, many of which I still speak to today as an actual friend. Oh my God.
it all comes down to this. And I don't want to quote the verse because I would implore and encourage you to go read the verse. And then I would encourage you to say, what does this verse mean in business? And type that in chat GPT.
Oh my God. The only reason that you are going to give scripture, a verse, sharing a verse, when you're talking about business conflicts is because you're trying to make it hard for people to disagree with you without feeling guilty. Because you're trying to back up what you're doing here with scripture and saying, see, this applies here. You're interpreting it to apply here, and you're creating a space for people to not question, because if they're questioning, they're questioning scripture. If there's somebody that is a Christian, you know what I'm saying? This is yikes.
And the verse is 2 Corinthians 6:14. And it talks about yoking. It's a kind of a farming agriculture term. I was just no longer equally yoked with the company. And if you'll go read the verse, 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, just type that into chat GPT. It doesn't mean I'm right and they're wrong. It just means we weren't equally yoked. And
But you're using it in the context that you're right and they're wrong. That's the reason that you're using that Bible verse. That's the purpose of it. Because if they're questioning you, they're not going to be able to do that without feeling guilty because you're throwing a Bible verse out there.
Understand the context in which we weren't equally yoked. If you say, what does it mean to be unequally yoked in business? And that will answer everyone's understanding of why we're not with Pruvit. Now, I've had several people send me videos that are corporate videos, and the one that kind of goes along with this is some of the leaders, corporate leadership, they're telling this story and using the metaphor of a bus. Like, the right people have to be on the bus.
Did you guys know that I did a Pruvit video? And a bus is in the thumbnail. Now, could this be a coincidence? Of course it could. But I remember doing this video. I can't find it right now. Go into by the way, I have playlists by company. So if you're looking for specific companies, you can find it in my playlists. But again, it could be a coincidence. But I did a whole video reacting to, I think it was Brian Underwood, the CEO. Let's see what he has to say.
And until the right people are on the bus, we can't go to the next level. And it just seemed kind of silly to me, knowing what I've known, knowing everything I know. Sometimes having access behind the curtain isn't all that serving because you know too much. And 2 Corinthians 6:14, I was no longer equally yoked. But I would argue the reason I wasn't on this metaphorical bus that they talk about corporately in their top leaders that's going to the next level is because I didn't believe I believed in the bus. I didn't believe in the bus driver.
Oh, Brian Underwood, he's talking to you. Bus driver. I think I made Brian Underwood the bus driver in that thumbnail. It very much could be a coincidence. I just find it really interesting.
And I'll just leave it at that. There's so much that could be said. But my intent is to wish everyone well. To hopefully be a light and say, gosh, I know some of the things that happened to him. I know some of the things. I know some of the rumors. Are they true? I can tell you, I won't pull a punch. But I also think at this moment, there's no need to fight.
Oh my God, this is a warning video. This is a warning message to Brian Underwood. Look at the face. This makes so much sense. Brian, he's saying he knows things. So don't fight with him. Tell us everything. I would love to know. Wow.
I won't pull a punch. I'll tell you the truth. But there's really no need right now to enter into the fight. So with that,
this was a warning video.
My thoughts on Pruvit, selling out, selling to, I don't know. I'm not an active representative. I've been blocked and not given access to a lot of maybe the announcements, but I could go Google it, and I read the same thing you guys read. I would just say I think there's a lot of people that believe in the bus, and maybe it's just time for the bus driver to retire.
Oh.
That would be...
Maybe it's time for Brian Underwood to stop scamming people, considering, in my opinion, he has a history of scamming people. Rob, I love that you said that. Good for you. Tell us more.
What it looks like might be happening or should be happening when it comes to Pruvit, Herbalife, and that partnership. I don't know any of the specifics. I don't know any of the dynamics. I wish everyone well. I'm sorry and sad to see that such a time as this didn't continue because, man, there was such...
I know exactly the reel that I'm going to pull from this. I hope you guys follow me on Instagram at The Real Beast Mode.
A time as this when there was so much promise, so much hope. But now I realize it was meant for me not just me. There's countless stories of people say, here was why Pruvit happened for me. Here's what Pruvit did for me. But for me, I had to meet the person that I was destined to be with. And for that, I'm just grateful
Okay.
for the company we call Pruvit. So with that, y'all, thanks so much for tuning in. My name's Coach Rob. I'm still doing what I'm doing with our Radway coaching.
Okay. Goodbye. I'm not going to listen to all of that. Whoa. Shots fired. Do you guys think that that was a warning video to Brian? Brian, did you watch it? Brian, you probably should. Whoa. Yeah, I did not see that coming. Also, we never really got to Herbalife that much. I think it was the last 4 or 5 minutes where he even said anything about the acquisition. Oh my God. I love that. Oh, that was getting too bright. I feel this as well. I'm not the problem. The driver is. Yeah, but he was in the back behind the driver saying, turn here, turn there. By the way, let's pull this magic number 60 and let's sell a fasting kit. Oh, we can't call it a fasting kit. Yeah. Yeah. Wild. What a time. I hope you guys had a blast. And I appreciate you guys being here. Y'all are amazing. And thank you guys. We just recently hit 16,000 subscribers. So thank you guys for that. I really do appreciate you guys being here. I thought I was going to be doing a lot of live streams, and I don't know how that happened. So today and Wednesday will be regular live streams. Friday, I'm going to have another video for you guys, an edited video. So next week, Wednesday will be a regular live stream. So I apologize for the mix up. Ava had to like, hey, what are we doing here? And I was like, I don't know. I thought we were doing this. And she's like, no, we don't need to do that. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. My bad. So anyways, if you have not already liked and subscribed to my channel, if you would do that, like the video, like the stream, leave your comments. And if you want to have some fun after this is no longer live, if you would drop in the comments a teacup, because I hope more tea comes out. And when I say tea, I mean people speaking out about their experience, people sharing, whether it's privately with me so I can fill in some gaps, victims coming forward. I feel like now is the time. And why do I think that? I feel like people are realizing that Brian Underwood is not a wizard and that he's just the man behind the curtain. And by the way, did you catch that part of the thumbnail? Did y'all catch that? I don't know. Let me know. Shout out to DC for helping me with that. I appreciate you so much, DC. Go and subscribe to her channel as well. And you guys, I'm going to go make dinner. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all of your comments. I appreciate you so much. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye, everybody.